Soy Héctor 3.
Héctor 2.
Héctor 1. Soy Héctor 3.
Héctor 2.
Héctor 1. Soy Héctor 3.
Héctor 2.
Héctor 1. Soy Héctor 3.
Hello, buenos dias, and welcome to another episode of It's Time to Rewind, the podcast trapped in its own time loop right along with the movies we discuss. This season, we're discussing Triangle and Timecrimes. This is the final episode of our Timecrimes season, and I'm very pleased to have on the writer, director, and one of the stars of the film Timecrimes, Nacho Vigalondo. How are you doing today?
Hi, how you doing? Thank you for having me here.
Sure, it's I've really like I said before we started recording. I really have been enjoying really digging into Timecrimes and looking at it one loop at a time, and it really holds up, and I was about to say I found a new appreciation for the movie, but this was actually the first time that I really dug in, that I really saw the movie. It was watching it for this podcast.
Should I add something? When people talk about time travel movies, the question about whether the movie holds up to logic, it becomes a thing at the end of the day, and I think I had a lot of fun, like judging movies like Back to the Future from using these parameters. But I must say that the quality of the movie and the fact that it holds up or not, those are completely separated circumstances. Like, you can make a perfect time travel movie that doesn't make sense. And that's the case of the legendary Back to the Future. And you can make a movie that is really making an effort to make all the pieces stick together in a logical way. And maybe the movie is not working properly in other ways. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention.
Sure, and one thing that I really liked about this, and I actually combined it with two other films that have a very similar concept of time travel. It's what I like to call like a fatalistic approach to time travel, where Hector, he is basically controlled by fate, because everything that he does is affected by what he's already seen, and he's just trying to recreate the events of what has already happened from his point of view. And so it feels like it's him controlled by fate once he after he goes into the time machine the first time.
We have this really overused trope in movies regarding sci-fi and technology, and we always tend to describe technology movies, like advanced technology, as some kind of a scene, like something that is have this kind of mythical vibe, because like making pretending that you can steal your memories with a device, like it happens in the Michel Gondry film, or making a time travel machine, or like trying to clone people. At the end of the day, it always results in the consequences of trying to steal the fire from the gods. And I have to say that I'm a bit uncomfortable with that thing. Like why do we have to be pessimistic at the end of the day in like 99.99% of films? So I can tell that you can get that message from the film, from Timecrimes, but I feel more comfortable with the fact that the morals of the story are contained in the iteration between the three actors, which is the same one. It's just about this guy fighting against this other version of himself, and fighting with this other version of himself, and the three of them are the same one. It's just like what happens when you are like, it's Saturday night and you are hanging out and you really like to drink and you keep drinking and you are clearly already drunk and you should stop because next day in the morning you have a really important appointment. Maybe your family is visiting and you need to be awake and fresh. And I can hear the voice of myself telling to myself, okay, I'm sorry, Nacho, from tomorrow, but I'm drunk, Nacho, and I don't give a fuck about you because you are a completely different person. You are an asshole that has to wake up early in the morning next Sunday. I am not that person. I'm this one. So that level of immaturity or that level of conflict when we are like we sabotage ourselves.
Yeah, I've heard it
That's
referenced a lot with like diets. You always think that future you is going to be a better version of you, and so
yeah.
you say, "Oh, I'm going to start the diet tomorrow because tomorrow me is going to be a better person that's going to be able to start the
Oh,
diet."
I'm really familiar with all those things. Like I was like 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I suddenly got a little like a really simple map of all my dysfunctions through all my life. Um, and I relate some of those to the impulses that drove me into making time crimes.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
like how your brain and yourself are like antagonistic forces sometimes.
Mhm.
Like I really want to read this book because I cannot wait to know what's in the pages, but my brain doesn't want to read book.
Yeah, and in Time Crimes, future
Yeah,
Hector is actually a physical manifestation of
yeah,
something that's controlling his actions.
it's like it's Psycho, the Hitchcock film.
Mhm.
Like each floor represents this is the Zizek theory around Psycho. Like each level of the house represents a different level in Anthony Perkins, I mean Norman Bates consciousness.
Mhm. And one thing that I noticed that I really appreciated is that the film does a good job of staying with the present Hector's point of view. And I think it does this really well, especially how he views the woman. During the
Yeah,
first loop, he's like a voyeur. He's watching her through the binoculars, and so the film presents a very male gaze of her
yeah,
nudity. And then
hmm
in the second loop, whenever he's more concerned with Hector One, whenever you're showing the woman taking off her clothes, you don't show any nudity at
yeah,
all. You cut
yeah.
away from that.
Sometimes you find yourself like stupid because you're trying to express to expose the reasons behind any decision. Sometimes you like feel stupid trying to explain why this decision is legit. And I'm talking about the nude scene, like the fact
Mm-hmm.
that we see this nude character, and I think you believe me. I think you believe me. I really needed the the nude to be there in order for it to disappear later. Like I really needed like a change in perspective from Hector
Mm-hmm.
because Hector number one is driven by a sex impulse, by male gaze. Hector 2 is driven by shame, and Hector 3 is driven. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to. I'm pretending that I know the movie so well at this time. And Hector 3 is power. I mean, Hector 3's engine is order. Like he wants to close the loop in the most efficient way possible. It's like he's not a human anymore. He's not trying to. He's not reacting to a human impulse. He's just like
Yeah, he's trying to make things happen the way that he remembers it, but in a way that benefits him the most.
yeah, but there's just some kind of a sense of justice or this kind of sense of this elevated sense of the order. Like Hector 3 is the oldest Hector, is the guy that has more experience, and is the guy who has faced failure the most, and he wants he's like I don't want to sound pretentious, but super ego. No, the super ego is Hector 2.
He's almost like a
Maybe
puppet master because he's the
Hector
one
1 is
that's kind of controlling everybody else.
yeah.
He's the one
Hector,
that really is controlling all the Tech's actions with his interactions with Hector 1 and Hector 2, and he's in a way controlling Hector 2's actions because he's the one that caused the car accident.
In fact, I remember that the first time that I wrote the pitch and I tried to come up with a line that summarizes the movie for me, and I wrote a murder story or a crime story in which the victim, the killer, and the instigator and the man behind the curtain are the same ones.
Yeah, I heard you describe it that way in a previous interview, and I really love that description. It's like a crime story where the investigator becomes the killer, or was always the killer.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those out. There's a lot of movies in which mostly books, mostly novels, in which the one that comes to my mind is 813, which is a novel by Maurice Leblanc. It's one of the Arsène Lupin stories. Are you familiar with this one?
No.
It's the French author that wrote these crazy, intricate, labyrinthian crime stories at the beginning of the 20th century. And now they're making the Netflix series with this character, with Arsène Lupin, which is the best thief in the world. And in this specific novel, 813, he's playing these both roles, the investigator and the criminal. And it's a completely different effect. But yeah, something interesting is coming all the time you're playing these games.
I think the only experience I have with Lupin, if it's the same character, is the Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's I don't know if they bought the rights, but that's a version of the character for sure.
Mm.
That's maybe an homage, or maybe it's a variant. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But I also appreciated. I thought it was interesting in a way because we are following Hector's point of view. This is a character that's not really interested in the other characters aside from Clara, his wife, and so we don't get their names.
Yeah.
So did you have any sort of backstory for the other characters? Because we don't get to see a whole lot of it. And I know, like, one fun detail is the woman's shirt has the Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. And then the negative space in the middle is also the same shape as the logo for the company.
The thing is, at the end of the movie, let me tell you something else. This is a movie in which you only get to see two humans at the same time in the same frame. You never see three people. It's only two, the most, which is something that I realized years later. The movie was released, and I found it really funny. You only get to see two human beings sharing frame. Once the movie ends, you can tell that the movie, in a way, somehow is talking about perspective. It's talking about point of view. Mm. It's about point of view as a tool that we can use to our benefit. And therefore, I found that the whole movie had to be contaminated by this idea. Like the movie was going to be. I found a lot of inspiration in Brian De Palma movies like Body Double or Blowout, which are movies that are driven by point of view, like what characters can see and what is hidden for the characters' point of view. And I felt that it made sense for the movie to stick to the main character's point of view as much as possible. Like, if you take a look, I feel that most of the tweaks in the film are POV based.
Yeah, I definitely noticed a few of those as I've been going through, because I know that it's really hard to catch, but you can see Hector 3's hand at the beginning for just a couple frames whenever Hector 2 is getting out of the tank. And you can see, like, the golf cart whenever Hector 2 is leaving the building. and then the golf cart is gone whenever he comes back, and you see the tech, look both ways behind him, but it's a close-up shot of their two faces, and you don't see it until you're following Hector 3, where you can see the golf cart going past in the background.
Can I tell you what's my favorite one? Which is something that maybe is a joke that is maybe too deep into the film, but that is the one that I love the most, and this is something that we came up with during the cut of the film. Is that when Hector 1 is approaching the girl with intentions that are never going to be clear, and then he gets attacked from behind with a pair of scissors, and then he runs away, and the camera follows him. So we hear the soundtrack like really high through all that segment. The second time that we approach the scene, this time from Hector 2's POV, this time the soundtrack seems to be the same one, appears to be the same track, but when Hector 1 runs away, he gets lost in the background, and the soundtrack goes away with him. Like he's taking the soundtrack with himself. And I love it. It's deeply stupid, but it's my favorite joke in the whole film.
That's fun. I didn't catch that. Although that is like my favorite bit of the movie. The funniest bit for me was Hector 2 whenever he's trying to do the hand binoculars, and it takes him 2 or 3 times before he gets the timing right.
Yeah. That was the first scene that we shot, and it came up so beautifully. Yeah. I'm happy. You're bringing really beautiful memories to me today.
That's good to hear. I also wanted to talk about the look of Hector 2, with the pink bandages, because I think there's very clearly a lot of like inspiration from The Invisible Man. Was there anything else, and like what was the decision? Like what was the process of the decision for the pink and the bandages?
Well, the thing is, I needed Hector 2 to look really unusual. Like I wanted this guy to feel like the opposite of an accident. Like there's something here that feels deliberate, that is really, really specific. Like if it was like it happened in earlier version of the script, if it was just a guy like a really wounded guy with bandages and everything, it would feel like an average element in the middle of a mountain of already average elements. I wanted something visually special to lie to rest in the core of the film, and I wanted Hector 2 to look like extravagant, but at the same time I wanted that costume to be the result of a logical process. So once we came up with a white liquid inside the time travel jacuzzi, and later we came up with the blood that comes from his forehead, and then we mixed those together, and the result is pink. But I have to confess something. You can say that it's pink because the characters say it's pink, because pink color under the kind of light that we're having in this film, which is like broad daylight light for most of the times, it's really difficult to create like a pink substance that taints the bandages in a proper way. Like I have to confess that it's pink. It's pink in your brain because you hear the word pink, but I don't think it's actually pink. I think it's pinkier on the cover of the DVD.
Yeah, I think I see what you mean. But I am curious too, was that decision colored a little bit by the fact that pink is typically like an emasculating color, like in order to diminish the threat of Hector 2?
I have to say that I never followed that train of thought. Like I wasn't aware of that way of thinking, but that explanation totally fits the kind of work that we made. I just wanted the first thing that I tried to visualize when I was writing the script is, okay, this is a movie that's going to take place mostly in a forest, in a green forest, and I need like a dot in the middle that cannot be an accident, cannot be part of nature. It
That
has to
visually
be
stands out.
and a point and a pink dot is a clear anomaly in the middle of a forest, and that gave me a lot of strength in order to build a story around that. Yeah, you can find meanings like the one you mentioned, but I don't think that meanings are necessarily explicit during your work. Like sometimes we mix the tools for analysis with the tools for filmmaking, like and that's something that I just realized that is real from college times. Like you use these tools in order to make a movie, and you use these tools in order to analyze the movie, and those tools are completely different.
Yeah.
Like meanings are there, and the meanings that you find are real, but the meanings are not present in the craft.
And then I was also curious because, Hector physically changes quite a bit from loop to loop, typically because of the car accidents for the most part. But was it also like a conscious decision to have these car accidents and these injuries change him physically, because he's also changing mentally, because he feels like a very different character by the time he gets to Hector 3.
And Carl Alejandro did an amazing job, because as you already know, you don't shoot movies in from the first page to the last one. You don't shoot movies in order, so you're jumping back and forth. And as you can guess, for the main actor, for Carra, that was a really delicate process. Like having the three characters in control, like being aware of who he was playing each day. I wanted, this is a really simple thing. I wanted Hector to be a different character once he takes the bandages out. Once we see his face again, I wanted him to be a new character.
Yeah, because I can't imagine that Hector 1 would be the type of character that would, tell the technician to not let Hector 2 into the tank just because he knows that that's going to cause Hector 2 to hit him with the crowbar.
Yeah, it's like I'm not that into Star Wars, but this is like a movie in which you start being Luke Skywalker, and then you become Han Solo, and then you become Obi-Wan Kenobi in 3 hours of your life. And Obi-Wan Kenobi is able to give some adverts to the other characters. So, but let me tell you something else. This is a movie about this human figure crossing this path that is filled with physical obstacles. It's like he falls down and he's being hit, and he has this really awkward fallings and little accidents, and
I believe I've referred to Hector as kind of a schlub many times.
It's a schlub. Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, one of the reasons I desperately wanted to make this film is because when you're making a movie with a bunch of characters talking to each other, the most mundane way of shooting conversations is doing reverse shots. It's the most mundane way, and it's the most useful way. Like today, if you're shooting dialogues in a different way, you better be have something interesting that because otherwise you're like just making noise. Like shooting, trying to be inventive while shooting a normal plot is a hell of a work. Like how can I make a movie in which people are like having these conversations, and how can I shoot this in a funny way, in a way that is reinventing itself like each 5 minutes. And this is a movie in which we are just following a guy, he's following a path. So you can do a lot of things with the camera without having to force language. And the movie that I had in mind all the time is The Evil Dead Part 2, which is a movie that, as many other people, as it happened with many other people, just opened my eyes. Like when I was in high school, then I saw the first sequel to The Evil Dead. And that movie is about nothing. It's about this guy following this path with lots of physical injuries and absurd violence. And because it's just this guy moving on in a natural way, the camera can express itself in a lot of ways. And I just wanted to give that to myself. I wanted to enjoy the process that to that level. Like, I want this guy to fall down, and I want this guy to be just sleep here or just being hit by a branch later. I just want this guy to suffer this amount of accidents because I want to enjoy that through the camera.
Yeah, and then one last question I had, kind of a speculation about the ending, because I know it ends in a somewhat ambiguous way. But I was kind of curious, do you think that within the events of the film that the technician ends up being accused of the murder? Because, Hector's car would be up there at the silo, and Hector, Hector 1 and 2 are both gone, so, Hector 2 isn't there, and Hector 3 has kind of built himself this alibi by sitting with his wife.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. There's a reason the movie ends right at that spot. The movie needs to finish right there because afterwards it's a fucking mess. It spirals into chaos. Yeah. It goes too crazy. But I have to add that happens with most of the films. Like movies normally know when to end. If you want to hit a specific note, because I'm not going to answer the question properly.
That's all right. I kind of had I figured it was a 50-50 shot if you did.
If I gave you an answer, that would be like a huge mess. I don't think no one wants to hear my real answer to that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I love that question because the one that the question that I keep hearing through the years, and it keeps coming back to me, and it's like, and people today they reach me through social media, and they're like, okay, what about Hector number 0? Because we need a nectar that triggers the whole thing, and that keeps coming, and I already have an answer. Like the movie is resting on a paradox. A paradox is not a mystery. A mystery needs to be solved or has a solution, and a paradox by nature has no solution.
Yeah, I've watched. I combined this with 2 other movies that have a very similar structure. Triangle, and then there was a movie that came out just a couple years ago from Italy called that actually called itself Time Loop, and Time Loop has a very similar structure to Timecrimes, except it's more of a drama. It doesn't really have the thriller element. Mm-hmm. And then it has, one additional time around. So there's 4 of the main characters running around at any one time.
Yeah.
Have you seen either of those yourself?
Oh, I have saw Triangle back in the days. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love Triangle as well, and I think that one more than the other 2. It actually has, at least a bit of an explanation of what started it all, because it has this figure of death. But Timecrimes and Time Loop, there's no explanation. It happened because it happened because it already happened, and that's the explanation.
Yeah. I don't know if you have seen the chronological cut. Like, we made a cut of the movie in which events.
I was looking for it, but I can't find it online anywhere, because everywhere that it's streaming, it doesn't have the chronological cut. I would have to physically buy a DVD. Like, it was on in the US, it was on like a Blockbuster exclusive, which I saw that available, but I didn't buy it. But
I'm pretty sure you can find it illegally, like reaching the depths of the internet. You can find You can find it there. I mean, the chronological cut is really funny because you get the sense of when the movie starts for real. And if you like take Hector's POV apart, if you take Hector's POV away, then you realize that the movie starts when the scientific guy just turns on the time travel machine, and two guys, two guys that happen to have the same face, just come out of it, which is a really funny beginning for a science fiction film.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think of the movie from the technician's point of view, too.
Yeah,
because he is, like, him as a character is an incredible actor. Because he really puts on an act for Hector 1 and for Hector 2 as well. Because, he puts on this act that he doesn't know anything, or, with Hector 1, this act that Hector 2 is coming after him in order to lead him to the silo.
Yeah, I like the idea that the character is kind of confusing and awkward at the beginning. Like he's clearly hiding something, but he doesn't feel to deliver the lies perfectly. So you know that something is going on, and in the third act you realize that this character is a victim of the whole thing. He's a victim of the whole event. Like he's not pulling any string. He's just
everything that he's doing is because Hector told him to do it.
Which is in a way, it's a metaphor. It's an allegory for filmmaking. Like everybody assumes that you are the puppet master when you're making a movie, but at the end of the day, you are just trying to move according to the strings that are tied to you.
Yeah, you're like a puppet master, but the strings pull back. You have the strings of like the budget and the actors and everything
and the
else.
Movie itself, and the movie itself is also the puppet master. So sometimes it feels like from the outside. Maybe this is like a really dated perception, but I remember that when I was a kid, filmmakers felt like semi-gods, like people who were like these powerful figures that were able to turn something out of nothing, out of just money. And what is money but nothing? Just and this kind of wizards, in a sort of way. And that is sort of terribly dated. That like no one is having that quasi mythological perspective on filmmakers anymore. We are not a mystery anymore. We are not a question mark anymore. Like we are not like who the figures. And I mean, when you're making a movie, you are the first victim of the whole thing. And if the movie doesn't work properly, you are going to be the guy who is paying the most of it.
Yeah, and I know that you've made a couple movies here in America. How and I watched Colossal just a couple days ago, and I really love that. Like, what's the big difference? Do you prefer making films in Spain or America? I'm sure there's a huge difference there.
First of all, in my case, I don't have the chance to choose when and how I want to make my films. Like when you are not such a big name as a filmmaker, you're trying to survive, and anything that comes will be like well received. Having said that, at the end of the day, the procedure is absolutely the same one. So I have this number of shots that I have to fulfill by the end of the day, and I normally have less time that I would love to have, and I have to solve that puzzle every day, and that is the same thing. No matter the team that is behind you, that is helping you, the craft is the same. The nature of the puzzle you have to solve is the same one.
All right, and then the last thing that I wanted to ask you about, because I saw this online and I kind of fell in love with it, even though it's not very available in the U.S., and that's Vigalondo Midnight Madness.
Oh yeah.
I was able to find I think one episode online, and the Spanish segment didn't have any English subtitles, but I saw the interview with Mark Millar. And
yeah.
I was curious how that show came about, and if it has any sort of success or any possibility of coming to the U.S. as maybe like a spin-off or.
You mean the show that I hosted?
Yeah.
I think it's not easy because when you are like working for a network like TMT, there's another puzzle that needs to be solved, and is the rights for all the movies that we are like showing and talking about. I remember that the movie that Mark Millar chose was Being There by Hal Ashby, which is a great film, and yeah, maybe TMC are able to show this film with our comments and our conversation up front during those days in this platform. Maybe later it can go to the internet under these really specific circumstances. But because we are not dealing with just ourselves, but also a movie that has a really established rights.
Yeah, it's not just your rights, but it's that film's rights.
It's complicated. I want people to pirate the whole thing again. I'm one of those filmmakers that you have to pirate to get the whole thing, the whole enchilada.
I guess, what's your view on piracy in general? Do you think that's something that hurts filmmakers, like independent filmmakers, or helps them, helps get their work out there?
I remember that. I don't know. It's like an open debate right now in the United States, because I feel like in Spain it feels like it has toned down for the last 6 years or something. Like I remember when this topic was everywhere and drove people angry in both sides. I don't know how's the situation right now.
I'm not sure what I know it still exists, but it is a little bit lessened just because there is so many different streaming sites and so many different ways to access a lot of older media.
The thing about piracy is that, and this is something that I missed in the conversation, in the discussion, the effects of pirating a blockbuster are not the same effects of pirating an indie film. Like mainstream will prevail. Like mainstream always will survive, but the same way that you can allow yourself to pick something in a big supermarket, but not in a small family company, in a small family like shop. The way we should establish like that difference between like big franchises and small productions, because the thing is. And this is something that I was afraid like years ago. It's like mainstream is way more present and overwhelming than ever, and medium films and small indie films are like the corner they occupy is like shorter and shorter. We operate in a place that is narrower every day that passes. And I'm not saying that this is because of piracy. There's like a million pieces, like this like 10 million moving pieces, like doing shenanigans here. So there's not an easy answer. But to me, I don't contemplate those two things in the same way.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with me. And do you have any upcoming projects that you'd like to promote, or if you want to tell everybody where your social media is, where they can follow you online?
I'm always like I'm writing all the time, and I'm just trying to do like 5 things at the same time, because 4 of those 5 are going to get canceled. Probably all of them. So I'm only going to mention the thing that is coming for real, because it's already shot. I made this 1-hour episode in this horror anthology for Amazon Prime called Historias para no dormir, which means stories to keep you awake because you are so afraid. Let me tell you something. That is a science fiction story. that is a concept that I wanted to explore like for half of my life, and it finally came in. Like, this whole series is a reboot or maybe a remake. I would say a remake of a series that was really popular in Spain in the 60s. It was a black and white series, black and white adaptation of horror stories from big authors, from big writers. And now we're making this I don't know if I should say legacy reboot, something like that. But we're writing a completely new script, so yes, it's really exciting, and it's a science fiction concept that I'm really excited about.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's gonna be there like in a couple of months. So.
All right. Well,
it's called the La Alarma, which means the alarm.
Okay. Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for that and see if it comes out here and gets a U.S. Subtitle.
I think it's gonna. I think I don't know how it works, to be completely. I'm gonna be sincere. I don't know if Amazon is showing this all over the world. I have no idea, but there's a big chance that you can see it like in a couple of months there in Amazon Prime.
All right. Yeah. So thanks so much again for your time.
And as always, this has been Bubbawheat, and you can find me on Twitter where I'm at Bubbawheat. You can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on Anchor.fm, as well as anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group that you can join and comment on episodes as they come out, as well as have any sort of discussion on time loops in general. And after this, there will be 2 bonus episodes on Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban before we get ready to start our series on Buffy and Angel. So keep an eye out for that, and until next time.
Soy Héctor 3.
Héctor 2.
Héctor 1. Soy Héctor 3.
Héctor 2.
Héctor 1. Soy Héctor 3.
Héctor 2.
Héctor 1. Soy Héctor 3.